I welcome everyone. This is the special virtual meeting of the Public Health and Safety Committee dated Wednesday, March 15th, 2023. It is now 7:01. We'll go ahead and get started. Calling the meeting to order. The first thing I'd like to do is approve the minutes of the February 15th meeting. Any comments?
Motion to approve.
Okay. All in favor?
Can we get people to put their cameras on, please, so that we can see their voting and things?
Yeah. Any abstentions? Or if not, I'll just say we're it's unanimous. Okay. Okay. The next item on the agenda is to discuss and vote on the updated town code on blight committee responsibilities to include commercial property.
I'm sorry, Matt, could I interrupt for just 1 second?
Sure. Sure.
There's somebody in the meeting who's just identified as iPhone for the minutes. Can you identify yourself?
Yeah, it's Tom Moore.
Awesome,
Okay,
thank
thanks,
you.
Tom.
Great,
Thank you. So we've got Frank Kemp with us, who chairs TGS&A. And Frank, if you would just give us a quick little background of where we've been with this and the reasoning for adding the commercial aspect to the current blight ordinance.
Well, thank you. A few months ago, the members of the Blight Review Board took up the matter of why is the Blight Review restricted to just residential situations. And so they discussed it for a while, and they forwarded a resolution to the Board of Selectmen, who agreed that the legislation should be changed. And after some delay, it was forwarded over to the RTM Rules Committee, who had assigned it to TGS&A and as the secretary, Public Health and Safety as Secretary, Planning and Zoning as the primary committee. TGS&A had looked into the matter in anticipation of this happening a couple of weeks ago. And we were initially concerned that we would have to write a whole new ordinance in that the authorizing regulation for residential blight was very specific. And the state was silent on authorizing municipalities to deal with commercial blight. And at the same time, a resolution was presented in Hartford, the current session, one page, just a couple paragraphs, authorizing municipalities to regulate commercial blight. That had everybody scratching their heads because major municipalities, such as Stamford, Norwalk, and there's a whole list of them, 6 or 8 other towns have done this. So that was a sticking point. And then the amount of the fine right now, if a resident burns through the different checkpoints and hearings and warnings and such, they can be fined up to $100 a day until they correct the situation. And there was some indication that it was not that we wanted, but it was desired to have a higher fee structure for commercials. All this was resolved in the last week or so. The material that was forwarded to you of the current resolution had only 5 minor changes in it to our relief. What Town Council Wayne Fox determined that the precedent was there for the other major municipalities to regulate blight, and under the theory that if it's not permitted, it is permitted. In other words, the state has been silent on it, therefore we can do it. And the resolution that may or may not pass in this year's legislative session is promoted by a representative out of Hartford, and Hartford is trying to work their way through a thicket of problems. And that resolution may be all to statewide regulation. It may just have to do with Hartford. And then after discussion with the Blight Review Board, we believe that the $100 fine is appropriate. And so the draft you see only has 5 little changes in it. I think they're highlighted in the material. This afternoon, Wayne provided Krista with a resolution that will be included in Krista's package for us all. She either went out this afternoon or will go out tomorrow morning with the materials for our Monday meeting. And in that, you will see a properly formatted blight resolution with 2 little wording changes, which I could tell you about, but they are wording changes between what you have and what Wayne had produced this afternoon that are minor. There we are. I met with Planning and Zoning last Thursday, and they approved. They were the lead. They are the lead committee in this, and they discussed a range of topics, but came down recommending approval. And then last night, TGS&A followed the same track. There are some general questions about what it is and why we're doing it and such, and we resolved those, and they passed unanimously that they thought that they would recommend to the RTM they would approve it. And so I'm looking forward in the next 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or whatever, is answering any questions that you might have on this material.
Yeah, Jim.
Frank, thanks for all your work on this. Those of us who remember the first round when you worked on blight for residential properties know that what you've basically just done is add the words "and commercial properties" to the existing blight ordinance. Is that a fair summary of the change?
It's very fair.
Okay, so I have a question. Yeah, thank you, Wayne Fox, for keeping it simple, right? If you don't follow the Blight Review Board, you really should. They do an excellent job, very thorough and patient and forgiving. And they follow the ordinance to the letter. George Riley is an excellent chair. He's not here tonight. He's not paying me to say this, but he does a really good job. As his 2-page statement today summarized, they haven't collected any fines yet, but they're about to. And there is one property that is at risk of foreclosure at this point. So they've been at this for a long time. The question I had for Frank was, did you have any feedback from commercial property owners in town, developers, etc., to this proposal?
Specifically, no. We did not interview back 6 years ago with the residential. We didn't interview people who were in danger of being declared blight on their properties. We did not talk to them. And similarly, in this exercise, we did not canvass commercial properties that were in jeopardy. We just didn't do it. What we did
those property owners could have spoken at any one of those hearings. They could be on the call tonight. They could speak to the RTM as well too. But I just think the point is, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're not getting any pushback from the community to this proposal, especially by the people that will be affected by it, right? And I'm not just referring to one family and one development. I'm just talking in general. Just an observation in the form of a question.
Speaking frankly, I'm relieved that we're in a situation where that major property now has a demolition permit, and it's a first step in what will be a long process. So we'll have to put up with construction, but at least it is construction and not just sitting there idle.
But it's going down. Demolition is starting from Hollow Tree over, and it's moving over rather quickly. It's just a shame it took so long.
I was apprehensive about proceeding with this the last couple of months for fear that the RTM's action would be viewed as vindictive or retribution or tightly targeted to a particular property. And sort of under the old bill of attainder, you can't pass a law about one particular person.
Mhm.
Now that that situation has been resolved, we're proceeding so that if a similar situation comes up in the future, as it may, then the town is better equipped to deal with it.
So if I may ask one last question, and I to that very point, has the blight inspection officer designated or said anything to the blight review board about commercial properties beyond that owned by the Palmieri's that would be under his microscope or in his watch catching activities on a regular basis? In other words,
Jim,
are there any others?
Yeah. Jim, I could offer, I watched one of the meetings from a few months ago where they were first bringing this up, and they said specifically they had nothing in mind. They didn't have any, and it was kind of wink, wink, because I think they were even saying they weren't even considering Palmer's, but I think they just wanted something in their back pocket going forward. But
right.
One thing I wanted to mention was in the meeting the other night with PZ&H, it really was stressed that this is a long process. It's a thorough process. So if someone makes a complaint, they don't get satisfaction in 30 days. There's a long review. A lot of it is not so much about the aspect of the blight. It's more of a social services issue, going into a home, for example, and finding 10 years of newspapers stacked near a heater or something. There's a lot of safety issues that are involved, and more than likely it may be the same thing with some commercial properties that they come over, that there's some dangers and safety issues.
Yeah, but I hope we don't have any hoarders in our commercial properties. Is that what you're implying?
Well,
people who like to collect things, I think was the phrase the chairman used. Sorry, I'm done. Thanks.
That's okay. And any other comments? Well, are we ready to put this to a vote?
To one of Jim's point, as we interviewed Jeremy Ginsburg and George Riley and other members of the Blight Review Committee, when we got to this point of the discussion, we asked them to suggest properties that might be in danger or on the cusp of being declared commercial blight. And I think we had 11. And John Vesey, member of TGSNA, and I drove around and looked at these properties. And applying the criteria that is now in the ordinance, we didn't see it. I'll use as an example Trader Joe's. It was supposed to be a terrible situation behind Trader Joe's, garbage all over the place and such. And wouldn't you know it, the day we went by there, it was clean as a whistle. There's no way they knew we were coming. It was just and a couple other instances like that. There would be maybe something that was unsightly, but it would not arise to the definition of blight that we have in the ordinance. Further, when we first started this, we thought that we would need to come up with a whole set of other criteria as to what defines blight. And in fact, with the different people we met with and different people looking at some other legislation, what we have now is okay. I mean, it will serve in the 12 different categories, of which you have to have 2, will work for us. So we're greatly relieved that we didn't have to change that.
Frank, can I qualify? Did you just say that there were 11 on their list?
No, there were 11 suggested that we go look at. Not on their list. There's no list.
Oh, okay, yeah. Who suggested that? Was that the building inspector?
Some were from Jeremy and some were from George.
Okay.
Why don't you go look at this? Why don't you go look at that? And we did. And a fair estimate or fair judgment was that while at one time a neighbor may have complained about it, it's certainly not a blight situation. And so that was a relief that we don't have to pass this regulation and then immediately start processes against someone. It's more a maintenance to existing legislation, so that if and when a situation comes up, we have an orderly way of dealing with it.
But remember, people can file anonymous complaints. But I think the building inspector probably is of a mind that it's not going to just take one person who sees some trash behind Trader Joe's on a Thursday to suddenly, have him going down there and inspecting them. I don't think that'll necessarily be the case, but those complaints can be made anonymously. And, this guy spends he's a half-time employee doing nothing but blight inspection work.
Mm-hmm.
Half a full-time employee just doing blight. He works in the fire marshal's office. And the other half, he does fire marshal work. So, would you like a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I
Sure.
would. The motion would be to approve the wording of the proposed ordinance as worded and presented, to be amended at the meeting with any further guidance, to add the commercial to the jurisdiction and work of the excellent Blight Review Board.
I'll second.
Superlative is not necessary.
Okay, Lois, you second it? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Tom. Okay, it's unanimous. All right. Well, thank you, Frank. Really appreciate your insights.
Yeah, thank you, Frank.
Thanks, Frank.
Well,
Good work.
Thank you. If you don't mind, I'd like to just hang in here for the rest of your meeting to
Sure.
see how a good committee is run.
Okay.
Hey, you have to go over to P and Z. No, that's a little bit later. Hang on.
Well, that's the only real business we had. I did want to discuss a few things, make a couple announcements. Last night was the quarterly advisory board of health meeting that I attended, and David Knopf gave an update on the food inspections, and it's kind of interesting because the state is now shifted to a national standard which does not include letters, so there's no A, B, C of the inspections. They're not going to have notices like they were. So anyway, there's a lot of stuff going on. David's quite concerned because it's a much more robust type of inspection, and it's costing almost an hour for each inspection, which is tough. So he wasn't really saying that they wanted to do anything different, but what they are, he just wanted everyone to know that this, that it's going to take a long time to get up to speed with the new inspections. So I wanted to pass that along. The other thing you talked about is COVID. Kind of, you wanted everybody to know that the second testing station that was up on the post road is going to be closing. They just don't have anybody coming in, so there won't be any place in Darien to get tested, other than going to your own doctor possibly, or doing a home test. So he wanted to pass that along. But he said that Darien really has fared well. Currently, Darien is listed of having tragically 17 deaths related to COVID over the whole course of the last 3 years, and on a statewide basis, it's one of the lowest percentages by population. So that was encouraging. And then the other thing I just wanted to mention was that the finance board had their meeting last night, and they're going to be going forward with having breakout sessions regarding various parts of the budget. And when I get that, I'll get it out to everybody so we can participate. They'll be looking at the fire, police, social services, the things that are kind of under our umbrella. When I get those firm dates, I'll let everybody know. And that's really about it as far as the announcement I had. Anyone else have anything? Jim?
The Board of Finance public hearing last night.
Mhm.
Watch it. 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Wow.
One person. I don't think the budget's going to have a problem. Okay, that's just my prediction. One person.
Wow.
I just wanted to raise attention to an issue that the police department or the police commission is discussing that I think it might be worth certainly following, and maybe give the chief a chance to explain it to us. So there's not a lot of disinformation going on around. The police department is looking to put permanently mounted license plate readers at all entrances to Darien. That's the pitch they got from a salesperson at their request. It's an amazing technology from a policing point of view. If somebody gets their car stolen, this thing will ping. You can know exactly where that car is or where it left town or which way it's going. If somebody gets broken into a house, the police will have a record of everybody that drove into town, and compare that against any list of usual suspects that they've had problems with in the past, perhaps. A lot of big brotherish aspects to it as well, too. But I think the conversation is just getting started, and I'm sure the chief, who I believe supports the idea, would be happy to come and explain it to us at some point.
Sure.
Question?
Do you know if any other towns currently do that?
Yes, I know
Yes.
New Canaan does, and I'll send you a link to what I can find about that. And I think, Mac, you were saying that Stanford and
I
Norwalk
believe
do it as well
Stanford.
too?
Yeah.
So here we are, the only ones that aren't doing it, and guess where people go to test for unlocked cars with keys in them?
Duh.
Now we'll have a list of who they are.
So Jim, do you
Welcome
know,
to Darien.
Jim, do you know if it's in the budget or,
No. These are early times.
Okay.
These are early times, but there have been discussions about the technology in the past. I'll send you a link to, if I can find it, when they were testing the first license plate reader 10 years ago. I did a ride along with a police officer and showed how the technology worked. It's amazing. People with expired insurance, no registration on the car, out of date inspection. These things were pinging and showing up on the officer's front dashboard, bing, with an alarm going off. We're going off so often that we couldn't stop, turn around, and chase after people.
Mm.
So amazing technology. But so stay tuned. I'll send you a couple of links to previous shows, and watch the Police Commission. It's fascinating television.
Well, thanks, Jim.
You're welcome.
Well, I think that's all of our business. If it's all right, I'll go ahead and cancel our meeting for Monday night at 7, because we basically have done everything tonight. And I'll work up a report that I'll give what we voted on tonight. So, could I have a motion to adjourn? Okay, Kate. Okay, second.
Second.
Okay, thanks, Tom. All in favor? Okay. Well, thanks, everybody.